Welcome to Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas podcast. Find us online at hancepodcast.com. We'd also love to hear from you. Feel free to send an email to info@hancepodcast.com. Chancellor, well, first, Merry Christmas, as this is airing on...
Merry Christmas to you.
Do you have a saying of the day for us?
I do. Christmas is a time of the year we buy presents with next year's money. That was out there a few years ago, and it's kind of gives you a little chuckle to start the Christmas with.
Do you remember your Christmas as a child? I don't remember them quite being like they are now for kids.
Oh, I remember them. It was a big deal. I always got a big red apple, which I loved. We didn't have apples all the time. Now we got apples. Everybody's got apples all the time. And, you got an apple. I mean, if somebody got an apple for Christmas, that's terrible. But we got an apple, and we'd get a big present and a little present. Right. And we were always thrilled, and it was an exciting time. They had one time I was visiting my aunt and uncle in Welch, Texas, and they went outside, and we stayed and said we were supposed to listen for Santa Claus, and I think they threw some rocks up on the roof or something, and said that Santa had landed, and I wanted to go out and see him, and then they said, okay, let's go, and we went on a ride, and we rode all over town, which wasn't much, looking for Santa. And we got back, and he had been there and left us some good gifts, and we had a joyous time.
Well, better an apple that you got than a pear.
Yeah, I'm not big on pears. Somebody called me, a guy, Tom Fitzsimmons, a friend of mine, a great stockbroker, has been my broker since '93. And he called me and he said, I'm not sending you any more pears. He listened last week, so he paid attention. Tom, thanks for listening and paying attention.
And more importantly, for not sending me any more pears.
Yeah, not sending me any more. He'd sent me some a week before.
We got the word out. I think there's no pears in your future. Speaking of the future, the courts in Colorado made an interesting ruling on the future of who can run for president.
Crazy decision. They decided that Trump couldn't, and I understand. And Trump, there are certain people just hate him, and they were thinking, how can we get rid of this guy and everything? And they came up with a decision that any legal scholar is going to laugh at, and that we'll decide who can run. Look, I saw a Republican group the other day. We're talking about that Biden shouldn't be able to run because he's not, he forgets too much. He's maybe has dementia or whatever. Look, let the public decide if they want to vote for Trump or Biden or whoever. And the court shouldn't decide, well, we're going to decide who can run, who can't run. And that's ridiculous. I don't think it'll stand up. It ought to fail on a 9-0 decision. What's happened with politics, sometimes you do something in politics and it comes back to bite you. And just like Harry Reid, he changed the numbers on getting someone approved at Supreme Court. He changed it, it was at 60. You had to have 2/3, and then he changed it down to a majority. And the result was that Trump he appointed 3 people to the U.S. Supreme Court, thanks to Harry Reid. And so I always tell political people, be careful what you ask for, you might get it. And I think that the Colorado thing is not going to go far. That's just kind of a deal that they thought, let's make it, let's get this guy out of the race. Let's get this next guy out of the race. Look, just let them run. They can go in there, and if you want to vote for them, fine. If you don't, fine.
But hasn't that been the goal of the Democratic Party, is to prevent Trump from getting on the ballot?
Well, yeah, they have. They don't want him to run, and they want him to keep him tied up in court. And, most people that would probably work with. But with Trump's persistence, it's not working with him. And I think that Supreme Court will eventually rule on what happens with all these legal cases that are out there, and that if you're tied up trying cases, it's hard to run a presidential campaign. But just let everybody get out there and run and say what they want to say, and say smart things, say foolish things, say, you're going to have all kinds of things said in a presidential campaign by all the candidates. And I think anytime you try to limit the number of people or the person, you say, well, let's get together and make sure this one person can't run. That's crazy. Let them all run. Let them get out there and say what they want to say, and then make up your mind who you want to vote for.
You said something a moment ago that made me think of, you said, be careful what you ask for, and be careful, politics can come back and bite you in the rear. And it's certainly doing that with the governor of New York, the mayor of Chicago, with the immigration crisis. They very much virtue signaled that we're welcoming.
They were sanctuary cities.
Right.
And Governor Abbott said, okay, and put them on a bus, and now he's flying them up rather than being on a bus. But it was easy for them to be very self-righteous and say we would take them, we welcome illegal aliens, and then all of a sudden they have 20,000 show up, and then 40,000, and it costs money, and someone's got to feed the people, someone's got to do something, and so you just can't ignore it. And this is it was a situation that the cities saying that we're sanctuary cities, we welcome you. Well, boy, they took the welcome out and put it back in the backyard. They're not welcome anymore, and so it's changed big time.
Governor of New York doing an interview saying we're full.
We're full. Can't take any more people. We're not asking for any help. But they were all for it when they didn't have to deal with the problem. It's easy to say, that doesn't bother me. I'm all for that, solving that problem, everything. And then you have 40,000 people all of a sudden. You've got to do something with them. I mean, it's a different situation.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Be careful in all walks of life what you say. You might get it.
Chickens may come home to roost.
Absolutely. Well, it is the Christmas season, and this podcast is being released on Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to all of our listeners. Find us on Instagram at The Best Storyteller Podcast, and of course our website is HantsPodcast.com. Chancellor, there was a recent poll that asked if Santa Claus had a nationality, which country would he be from?
I saw that, and it was they had, I think Norway was first, and Canada, and U.S., and Russia. There wasn't any hot states, wasn't Brazil. And I think that comes back from all the scenes that you see in advertisements or in Christmas stories about snow and about Santa Claus and reindeer and having a sled and things like that. So I think that's the result of people just looking at advertisements and stories, and that but not one state or not one country came back that it was a warm, hot country like Brazil or
Well, with the passing, with Christmas coming and going, of course, next up is New Year's, and that means a lot of New Year's resolutions.
Resolutions galore, and we'll touch on some of them next week. In Great Britain, they said the resolutions have nothing to do with anything except pounds, and they want to make more money, make more pounds, or they want to lose pounds, and be on a diet. So pounds, one way or the other, is going to be in their resolution in Great Britain this next week.
Chancellor, how have you stayed so fit all these years? You always look in tip-top shape.
Well, I think, maybe my ancestors helped on that, and I still work out every day. You don't have to do a strenuous workout if you walk. I walk about 45 minutes, and if I'm trying to catch up on phone calls, I put my ear pods in and call people and walk. And if I'm trying to catch up on emails, I ride a stationary bike and just pedal as fast as I can go. And if I'm just trying to catch up on watching the news or watching talk shows, then I'll walk on a treadmill. Mm-hmm. But I think that if you lift a few weights and you walk, it pays off for you. And now I may drop dead of a heart attack next week. I hope not. But I've had friends. A friend of mine not long ago, really a good guy, Trent Woodward, died of a heart attack, and he was trim and pretty thin, and just he's 52 years old, and boom, and those things happen. But you always, your body talks to you. A doctor told me one time your body talks to you, and it does. If you've got a broken leg or something, I mean, you're going to hurt. It'll tell you that you got problems. But if you're going to work out, you don't have to. A lot of people they make it complicated, and just walking. You look in New York City, and the number of people that are trim and in pretty good shape. I mean, they walk everywhere, and so it pays off, and I think it does. Any people that if you averaged 30 minutes a day, it would do wonders for your health.
Consistency, the key.
It is the key. Mm-hmm. I had a good friend at Tech, and he would not walk or anything, and then he'd go run 6 miles, and he'd run 6 miles for one day or of a week or something like that, and that's really not good for you. And just being consistent and having somewhere maybe as low as 20 minutes, but being consistent and taking care of yourself, it will pay some dividends.
A lot of people across the country, as every Christmas, people are hoping for a white Christmas. Most of the country pretty disappointed, except for those in the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, I always like a white Christmas. We had a few in Lubbock, Amarillo area from time to time, in Washington, D.C., but there's something about it. It's part of the story and part of what you've seen in the past, and so you see a few snowflakes. It's good. We had a weatherman in Amarillo one time named Dan True, and one time he said that there's going to be some, that it wasn't going to be big, but there'd be some flakes in North Amarillo, and there'd be some ordinary people too. I always liked that.
Who was it that walked out and saw just a cowboy hat on top of the snow?
As my dad told that story about that they had a snowstorm out in West Texas. It snowed for 3 or 4 days, and it finally stopped, and they go out in the front yard, and there's a cowboy hat on one of the drifts, and they go over there to pick it up, and there was a guy under it, and they said, we'll get a shovel and dig you out, and he said, could you dig my horse out that I'm riding? And I always like that. That's a pretty good story. Another Texas story is the one in Buffalo, New York, where they saw the, Niagara Falls. And this guy, this Texan, had been bragging everywhere they went. He'd say, well, we got something better in Texas. We got something better in Texas. They saw Niagara Falls, and they said, you got something better in Texas than that? And he said, no, but we got a plumber in Houston could fix that thing. So he was trying to push that we might not have the event, but we'd have somebody that could fix it.
I like that. Did you see the thing about hypochondriacs?
Yeah, they don't live as long.
Yeah.
Average hypochondriac will die at 70, others die at 75, 76. Mm-hmm. They're so worried about their health that it causes them problems. Mm-hmm. And they always, something's wrong. And, if you get beside a hypochondriac on an airplane, it makes it a long flight. You just say something nice like, how you doing? Well, I've got this, and they go into detail. Mm-hmm. And, it can be a long flight.
Yeah, I learned that from you, and also you learned the hard way never to tell people what you do for a living.
Yeah, I told some people one time I was a congressman, and boy, they were on me fast, and they had a lot of advice, and some of it was good, and I appreciated it, for the first 15, 20 minutes, but it was a 2.5 hour flight, and so it got a little old.
One of them just wanted to beat the hell out of everybody, right?
Yeah, and I told them this: you need to run for Congress. Go out there and you'd like it. You know, somebody gets so opinionated and everything, just run for office. See how you like that.
Right.
Because you're going to get a lot of advice and you'll learn a lot of things.
Do you think that in the political world, there's still a desire amongst young people? Because being a politician certainly seems like it's hard and that your life is on full display. Are people shying away from that because of?
Well, I think they are. I think a lot of people, a lot of business people shy away from appointments. There's a lot of people will turn away presidential appointments. And we had a guy here in Austin that turned down a presidential appointment. He just didn't want to go through the hassle. And so, I mean, it's not easy. And if you're a candidate, you know, they're going to go back and do research and bring out anything they can. And so it's tougher, and I think there's less people attracted to politics, and that's not good. I think it's good for young people to run and get involved and express their opinions.
Even if it's just a small county, school board or something, or
you'll appreciate everything that you do a lot more if you make a run for any type of politics. And being on the school board, everybody's got an opinion. They had I knew a guy that applied for a job coaching in East Texas, and the school board, the principal, and the superintendent interviewed him. And this woman asked him, said, what church, she is on the school board, what church do you go to on Sunday? He said, well, nothing in particular, but if you want to see me anytime on Sunday, just come by the house. He didn't get the job. I could have told him, you're not going to get, if they ask that question and you answer that way, you're not going to get the job.
Almost seems like an inappropriate question.
Yeah, it's probably an inappropriate question, but is an inappropriate answer also. Just if you need some advice or something on Sunday, just come by the house. I'll help you, ma'am.
Kind of off script here. I'm catching you by surprise with this question, but could you explain to me, if nobody else, why it is that Hunter Biden, who's all over the news right now, is so dead set on not being deposed, I guess, behind closed doors, but willing to do it out in public, in front of with cameras and everybody? Can you explain?
Well, he wants to have his say and say it the way he wants and not get cross-examined that he would in a private, behind closed doors where they're going to ask a lot of questions. Hunter's been a pretty lucky guy, all that he's been involved in and everything. That it's surprising to me that he's out walking around but I don't know. There's a different standard there. If one of the Trump kids had done the same thing, I think they'd already be in jail. But that's from my perspective. I'm sure there's others that look at it a different way. But there's a lot of questions, and the Democrats did not want to lose control of the House, because as long as they had control of the House, wouldn't have to answer those questions. And now if you're opposite the House or the Senate, then they're going to have a lot of questions for you, and they're not going to be nice. One thing I mentioned that we had Ted Cruz on the show before, and it wasn't highly partisan. I mean, just about him as an individual. He has a podcast called Verdict, and he did I believe it's 3-part series with Congressman Comer, about some of the questions on this. And you might want to listen to that and see if you really are into the in-depth of it. If you're not, I wouldn't waste my time on it. But if you really like the details on something like that, you ought to listen to it. Merry Christmas, everyone. Be coming up a Happy New Year as well. This is a great time to be with family and a fun time. And always remember that here at Christmas, you're spending next year's money. And that's the saying for the day.